Imagine the unthinkable, holding your infant child in your arms, feeling their warmth, their trust, the innocence of life itself. And then, in an instant, that trust is shattered. For 7-month-old Emmanuel Haro, this nightmare became reality on a seemingly ordinary afternoon in Yucaipa, California. His mother, Rebecca Haro, reported a horrifying scene, an attack, a knock to the head, and the sudden disappearance of her baby while she changed his diaper outside a store. Panic spread through the community, fear gripped neighbors, and the search for Emmanuel became a desperate, heart-wrenching mission. But as investigators dug deeper, the story told in tears and pleas began to unravel. Every word, every sob, every frantic call painted a picture of grief. But hidden in the shadows were inconsistencies that could not be ignored. And behind closed doors, the weight of guilt began to emerge, a weight that may have been crushing the very people entrusted with Emmanuel's life. Were these tears genuine, or were they a mask hiding an unthinkable truth? Tonight, we peel back the layers of anguish, deception, and betrayal to uncover the chilling reality of a family whose darkest secrets may have led to the disappearance of their own child. As the investigation unfolds, the haunting question remains: how far would a parent go to hide the truth, and how much guilt can a conscience bear before it cracks? This is not just the story of a missing child. It is a tale of innocence lost, trust betrayed, and a community desperate for justice. It was August 14th, 2025, a seemingly ordinary summer afternoon in Yucaipa, California. Shoppers moved in and out of the Big Five sporting goods store, unaware that a tragedy was about to unfold just outside its doors. 7-month-old Emmanuel Haro, a tiny life full of innocence and trust, was in the care of his mother, Rebecca Haro. In what should have been a routine moment, changing her baby's diaper, Rebecca would soon claim that the unimaginable happened. According to her account, she was suddenly attacked, knocked unconscious, and when she came to, Emmanuel was gone. A moment that should have been ordinary had turned into a nightmare. Panic swept through the community. Neighbors rushed to help. Shoppers who had witnessed parts of the scene called 911 in disbelief. Social media erupted with pleas. "Have you seen Emmanuel? Please help us find this baby." The entire town held its breath, hoping and praying for a miracle. But as investigators arrived on the scene, a troubling shadow began to emerge. What should have been clear evidence of a random abduction instead presented small, confusing inconsistencies. Witness accounts didn't fully match Rebecca's story. Security footage showed moments that raised more questions than answers. Even the timeline of events, the exact moment of the attack, the window in which Manuel disappeared, had gaps that could not be easily explained. The community's grief and fear were palpable, but so too was the sense that something was off. Every investigator on the case could feel it. This was no ordinary abduction. Somewhere beneath the tears, the frantic calls, and the desperate search, there was a story that did not yet reveal itself, a story that would soon shock the nation. As detectives dug deeper into the disappearance of Emmanuel Haro, the initial story of a random attack began to crumble. Every statement from Rebecca Haro was meticulously compared to witness accounts and surveillance footage. Small inconsistencies, a shifted timeline, missing details, unanswered questions began to cast a shadow over the family's narrative. Investigators sensed a hidden weight, a silent guilt that seemed almost palpable. And then there was Jake Haro, the father. His prior conviction for child cruelty involving an older daughter could no longer be ignored. Each piece of evidence, each hesitation in their statements suggested that the danger may not have come from outside, but from within the very home that was meant to protect Emmanuel. The investigators' unease mirrored the community's growing suspicion. Friends, neighbors, and even extended family began to whisper the unthinkable. Could the parents themselves be responsible? The very people entrusted with Emmanuel's life now appeared entangled in a web of deception, leaving a haunting question for all who followed the case. What price does a child pay for parental guilt? And here we turn to you, the viewer. If you know anything, no matter how small, no matter how seemingly insignificant, your voice could be the key to justice. Silence, even with the best intentions, can allow the truth to remain hidden. Do not let guilt continue to protect what should be revealed. Speak up, share what you know, and help ensure Emmanuel's story does not end without answers. Just over a week after Emmanuel's disappearance, the quiet streets of Cabazon, California, were shaken by the arrival of law enforcement. Detectives, armed with search warrants and a growing body of evidence, descended upon the Haro family home. The arrests of Rebecca and Jake Haro sent shockwaves through the community. Friends, neighbors, and relatives struggled to comprehend the unthinkable. The parents, the very guardians of Emmanuel's life, were now suspects in his possible murder. Jake Haro's prior conviction for child cruelty cast a haunting shadow over the investigation, turning suspicion into grim certainty for the authorities. The evidence, combined with the inconsistencies in Rebecca's story, painted a picture that no parent wants to imagine: that the one who should protect the child may have been the one to put him in harm's way. The emotional toll on the community was immediate. Shock, anger, and heartbreak mingled with disbelief. People who had prayed for Emmanuel now wrestled with a heavier question. How could a family betray the most sacred trust of all? And behind bars, the parents faced the weight of justice, while Emmanuel's fate remained unknown. For the public watching, the message is clear. If you have any information, anything you've seen or heard, do not remain silent. Every detail, every memory could help bring Emmanuel home or ensure that justice is served. Silence only prolongs the agony and allows guilt to remain hidden. Speak up and be part of the search for truth. Even with Rebecca and Jake Haro behind bars, the most painful truth remained. Emmanuel was still missing. Investigators did not rest. Search teams spread out through the arid hills and neighborhoods around Cabazon and Yucaipa, combing forests, dry creek beds, and abandoned lots. Drones hovered over wide tracts of land. Cadaver dogs were deployed. Door-to-door interviews continued. Every inch of terrain was scrutinized, with one question echoing through the minds of those searching: where is this baby? For the detectives on this case, the work was more than just procedure, it was personal. Each day without Emmanuel felt heavier. The image of a 7-month-old child, helpless and voiceless, kept investigators pushing past exhaustion. But with every hour that passed, the fear deepened that Emmanuel's story might not have a happy ending. And yet, as thorough as law enforcement has been, they cannot do it alone. There are still unanswered questions. Someone, somewhere, saw something, heard something, knows something. Maybe it's a neighbor who noticed strange movements that day. Maybe it's a relative who overheard a conversation. Maybe it's a friend who dismissed an odd comment. Sometimes people stay silent because of fear, loyalty, or even guilt, the belief that speaking up will hurt someone they know. But ask yourself, what is the cost of silence when a child's life, or justice for that life, hangs in the balance? If you are holding back, if you have even the smallest detail that could help, no matter how insignificant you think it may be, you have a moral responsibility to act. Emmanuel cannot speak for himself. He cannot tell his story. You can. Your information could be the missing piece that brings him home or helps deliver justice. Do not let guilt or fear stop you. Break the silence. Call the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department at 909-890-4904. Let Emmanuel's voice be heard through you. As Rebecca and Jake Haro faced the cold walls of a detention facility, the investigation moved into its next harrowing phase: the courtroom. Prosecutors began assembling a timeline, a web of statements, evidence, and expert testimonies aimed at proving that Emmanuel's disappearance was not an accident. Each motion filed, each hearing date set, carried with it the echoes of a community demanding answers. Inside that courtroom, the stakes could not be higher. Prosecutors argued that this case was about more than just a missing infant. It was about trust betrayed, and innocence stolen. Defense attorneys countered with their own narrative, but the weight of prior convictions and inconsistencies loomed like a storm cloud. Behind every legal argument was the haunting question, where is Emmanuel? Without his body, the path to justice would be harder, but not impossible. Forensic experts, neighbors, and even extended family were called upon to share what they knew, piece by painful piece. And outside the courthouse, the emotional fallout spread wider. Community vigils became gatherings of both hope and heartbreak. Mothers held their children closer. Neighbors who once offered casseroles and condolences now wrestled with anger and betrayal. How could this happen? How could no one speak up sooner? Became the whispered refrain. With each new headline, the guilt of silence grew heavier for those who had seen red flags and said nothing. This is where you, the viewer, cannot remain a spectator. True crime is not entertainment when a child's life is on the line. It's a call to conscience. If you followed Emmanuel's story and feel that tug in your heart, that ache that says something about this isn't right, you must act. Share Emmanuel's story. Talk about it in your communities. If you know anything, even if it's a memory you've pushed aside, bring it forward. Justice demands participation, not passivity. And if you've ever turned a blind eye to abuse or danger, in this case or any other, let Emmanuel's story be the moment you decide to never stay silent again. The justice system can prosecute suspects, but only collective courage can prevent another tragedy. Will we let another child's voice be lost, or will we rise and ensure Emmanuel's story ignites change? As the headlines fade and court dates shuffle on, there is one heartbreaking constant: baby Emmanuel's tiny face, frozen in time, still missing. His laughter silenced, his future stolen, his story unfinished. This case is not just about the Haro family. It's about us as a society. What happens when those entrusted with love become the very ones accused of harm? And what happens when neighbors, friends, and even strangers choose silence over speaking up? Pause for a moment and put yourself there. Imagine Emmanuel was your son, your nephew, the child you once held. Would you sit quietly, hoping someone else steps forward? Or would you demand the world's attention until answers came? That's the challenge before all of us. I want to hear from you. Not later, not tomorrow, right now. Where are you watching from? What are your thoughts on this case? Do you believe justice will prevail, or are there deeper failures we must confront in how we protect our children? Comment below. Your voice adds weight. Your insights may open eyes. And I urge you, share Emmanuel's story far and wide. Somewhere out there is a person with a detail they think is too small to matter. A memory, a sound, a suspicion. Don't let them carry that secret another day. If you know anything, call the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. Report anonymously if you must, but speak. Do not let guilt gnaw at your soul years from now because you stayed silent today. Friends, this is more than content. This is a call to conscience. As a community, we have the power to ensure no child slips through the cracks again. The question is, will we rise to it? Will we stand for Emmanuel and for every voiceless child? Or will we scroll on, letting another innocent life be forgotten? I'm Agent Tim, and on this channel, we are relentless in shining light on the darkest corners, with truth and evidence. Stay with us, share your thoughts, engage, because the more we speak, the closer we come to justice for Emmanuel. And until his story has an ending worthy of his life, we will not stop.